Salam alaikum alaikum salam. This is Tata Matamba. Today we're doing a video on what's an NGANGA and what's an NKISI. We're not going to go in depth within how to construct an NKISI and the ceremonies to become an NGANGA, but we're going to differentiate the two. What's an NGANGA? In Africa, right? An NGANGA is a person who has reached a level of maturity within his profession or career due to a specific amount of advanced training and education. An example would be a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, electrician. In other words, a professional. That's what an NGANGA is. You have a profession. Now in Cuba, NGANGA means the spiritual part, el fundamento, la prenda, el quindembo. It has many names, but in reality, it's an NKISI. It's just constructed in a different way. Just keep in mind that an NGANGA, it's a master. It's the title of being a professional within your community. Now, obviously, when I speak with other tatas or other paleros, right, I understand. And when they tell me I have an NGANGA de Siete Rayo, I understand what they're telling me. They're saying I have an NKISI of Insasi. I still practice a traditional way, but it's always good to know a little bit further knowledge to understand the language, the Kikongo language, and the concepts. You have to keep that in mind. So if you go to Cuba and you say, yo tengo la prenda, or yo tengo la NGANGA de Siete Rayo, I have the NKISI of Insasi. That's what they're referring to. Due to the slave trade, those words probably got mixed up. The loss of culture, they probably just got mixed up. And I always say stick to your lineage, but this is just some information for you guys so you can differentiate and understand what an NGANGA truly is and what an NKISI truly is. So, and an NGANGA, remember, is just a master or a professional of any kind. Now, when you say an NGANGA NKISI Malongo, you're referring to I'm a specialist, a master of NKISI means medicine or an ancestral force. We'll get into that in a little bit later. And Malongo means nature. So in other words, you're a doctor, a traditional healer. We're gonna go ahead and look at the pictures. You see, that's an NGANGA right there. The Muntu, the person there, he's an NGANGA, and those are his NKISIs. Those vessels where the spirit lives in. Those statues, those wooden statues, which we call in Cuba kinikinis, but in reality they're NKISI Ngondis. And majority of the time there can also be an NGANGA NKISI Ngondi, which refers to the person who carves the NKISI. El cultador, the one who carves the NKISI, he's an NGANGA NKISI Ngondi. He carves the NKISIs out of wood. This is another NGANGA with his NKISI. It's a little bit smaller, but size does not matter. And there's a lot that goes into an NKISI, like the bilongo, the medicine, and all the forces of nature that they put into it. And there's also a process to construct one, and also there's a process to become an NGANGA, right? A specialist, or an NGANGA NKISI Malongo, a specialist within that community. Obviously, most of the time you have to be initiated inside your community, your kanda, that tribe. It's a tribe, it's a community. So this is just a traditional healer, a doctor for that tribe. And we'll go ahead and look at another picture with a traditional healer right here. He's an NGANGA NKISI Malongo. He's a specialist of nature, a traditional, I think from the Zulu tribe. And here you see somebody probably conversating with the NKISI. That might be his NKISI. He might be an NGANGA, or he might be communicating with his ancestors or asking for a petition for that spirit that lives inside that NKISI. As you can see, in Cuba, we do things a little bit different. It's still, we call that an NGANGA, the actual NKISI, but it looks different. It looks different. Things shifted. Here's another NGANGA with his NKISIs, his statues there, and his medicine in his hand for him to do his rituals and his things. But the person is the NGANGA. He's the specialist. He's an NGANGA NKISI Malongo, a specialist of the medicine of nature. There's many types of NGANGAs, many types. And I think there's an example. Let me go ahead and click for the next one. Here, this is an NGANGA Doko. He's an executioner. When somebody legally will get condemned within the tribe, he'll be the one who executes them, and he'll do that job. You see, he's also an NGANGA. He's not an NGANGA NKISI Malongo, but he's an NGANGA Doko. He's the specialist who executes people or takes on that job for the community. Here's another NGANGA NKISI Malongo, another traditional healer with his NKISIs, with his NKISI Ngondis. We call those, I'm going to say it again, in Cuba, kini-kinis. You might hear that word, kini-kinis, which is just a wooden statue with a spirit in it. Now, what is an NKISI? So, the word NKISI refers to an ancestral force, like water, fire, all these things, medicine, or bilongo can also be used, or a fetish. In other words, the statue, a vessel, a futu, a partial, where the NKISI, those ancestral forces can be introduced. A futu will be the actual shape of it. An example would be an NKISI Ngondi, NKISI Koso, NKISI Bumba, which is constructed different. It's more like a bag. NKISI Dumba, which is more like a woman. NKISI Wanda. All these are different forms and shapes that you can form an NKISI and give it different purposes. Now in Cuba, when the Impungo, the force of nature, because in Cuba, Impungo for us means the force of nature, is trapped in a vessel like the pot. We call that el Impungo del Insasi. And it's perfectly fine. You can keep it the traditional way. I understand when tatas tell me, yo tengo el Impungo de Siete Rayo, or I have the Impungo of Insasi, or I'm going to call down the Impungos. I understand what they mean. In reality, they're saying NKISI, because the word Impungo means in the Kikongo language, almighty. So when you say Insambi Impungo, you're saying God Almighty. You can't say Insasi Impungo. You're saying, that NKISI is almighty. That's not the right word you'll say in Kikongo. But perfectly fine. When I conversate with other tatas, I understand when they say impungos. You're going to read it in many books. Probably the loss of culture due to the slave trade, those words got mixed up. But it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's just for you guys to understand the difference between what is an NKISI and then what is the NGANGA. Remember, an NGANGA is the specialist of any trait. If he's an NKISI Malongo, then he's the medicine of nature. So he's the traditional healer. If he's the NGANGA Dumba, that means he's probably the midwife for that tribe. There's many different professions within a tribe. There's many NGANGAs, and it gets passed down through generation to generation. NKISI are these like NKISI Ngondis. This is an NKISI. These are all NKISI Ngondis. They're statues. We call these in Cuba kini-kinis. You're going to hear that word. There's NKISI Kosos, which is the dog, and it has a purpose like a dog would, like to protect the house. So that spirit would protect the house like a dog would. NKISI Bumba, and it'll be more like in the sense of it'll be wrapped around. Now this right here, what we call in Cuba an NGANGA, but in reality, this is an NKISI. It's just practice. It's been specialized for a certain practice in Cuba. From my knowledge, my studies, the books that I have read, my teachings from my godfather, the anthropologists that I spoke with, and the knowledge that I obtained, the way that a NGANGA NKISI Malongo in Africa would do his practice was accepted within the community, and it's a lot easier, simple medicine. Now in Cuba, it's a lot harder. They had to create a system, a structure, which we call Palo Mayombe. The roots come from, the Bantu people and their practice. And these are all, these are all NGANGAs, what we refer in Cuba, but in reality, they're just an NKISI. There's a spirit inside there at the end, and it's just encapsulated. And it's the same thing. So we just specialized, or we enhanced the practice to a certain way to benefit us, to benefit the Cubans did that to benefit the Infumo, the NGANGA, right, the specialist, the Padre NGANGA. It's a lot easier within certain rituals where you can feed the NKISI, where you can add more forces of nature inside that pot than actually to put it inside the NKISI. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing in a pot, or in a boomba, like in a sack, or in a dog, or in a statue. At the end of the day, that's just the vessel for the spirit to be in there. And there's a lot of processes to get that spirit in there, and you need initiation rites, and at the end of the day, it's a body. The same way you came into this world and there was a 9-month process, there's a process for that spirit to reach a body, because you're a spirit and you have a body. And it took a process for you to obtain that body. So for that spirit to obtain a body, there's a process. And if it's not done correctly, there's going to be issues. So when you're creating an NGANGA or your godfather, or an NKISI, right? And the right word is NKISI. When you're creating an NKISI or your godfather of any kind, an Nkuyu, an Mpaka, Kini Kini, any kind of NKISI, it's very important that things are done right, and you follow your lineages. You follow the knowledge and things. Take these things seriously, because this exists. And you have to understand, this is just a body. The sticks, everything is tied in within the body. The sticks, you see, they represent probably the lungs. There's certain things within the pot that represents the body of that spirit. We find a way to encapsulate that spirit. Obviously, he agrees to that because he wants to live. He wants to materializarse. He wants to come to the spirit world, to the physical realm. My bad. He's in the spiritual world, but now he wants to come to the kuenseke, the material world, and he has to have a body for that. And there's a lot of processes that go into these things. Let's just not grab a pot and put sticks in it and dirt and keep it going. No. There's a lot of rituals, agreements. Most things is agreements and knowledge. The same way that your godfather teaches you is the same way your godfathers in NKISI will teach your NKISI how to do things in that spiritual realm and that world. So take these things seriously. I want to thank you guys for your time. Like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And if you want to contact me, it's tatamatamba88@gmail.com. Salam alaikum. Malaikum salam.